Hi, and welcome to this week's Friday Facebook Live with me, Louisa Whitney from LKW Family Mediation. And firstly, I wanted to apologise for the fact that there have not been Facebook Lives over the last few weeks. I have been really busy with clients, and whilst I really like to talk about things in these lives to help those of you who maybe aren't in mediation currently, my priority has to always be with the clients that I have and ensure that their needs are being met. But I am back now, and I will be talking about the last 3 blogs that I have posted in a new series in this Facebook Live and kind of headlining the key points from those. I've put the link for the blog by this broadcast so that you can then have a look at the blogs if you want to. I haven't yet worked out what's happening with Facebook Lives next week, but I will, of course, post that on our Facebook page. If you haven't already liked our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/LKW Family Mediation, then please do so, because that will enable you to see when we're going live. For those of you that don't know, I will be away on holiday after next week, and I will be back in the office on Thursday, the 15th of August. So I won't be around during that period of time. I really do enjoy taking a holiday to recharge my batteries so that I can come back and do my best work with clients. So what's this new series of blogs been about? Well, I've been focusing on communication, mainly because I think communication is one of the biggest issues for separating couples. Often when a relationship breaks down, communication between the 2 people involved hasn't been good for a little while, and this can have contributed to the breakdown of the relationship, or it can be as a result of the breakdown of the relationship. And not being able to talk to each other is really, really hard when you're trying to parent together. And that can be a major source of frustration for separating couples, that they know they need to work together for the benefit of their children, and it's something they really want to do, but they're not quite sure how to do it, or they get frustrated because when they think they're having a conversation about something that should be simple, it ends up in a big row about things that it wasn't originally intended to be about. So what I've been talking about in the blogs is firstly that sometimes communication issues can crop up simply because you are both at very different points in the grieving or healing cycle. And this is something that I see quite a lot. Divorce and separation are one of the most stressful life events that people can go through. And often they trigger other life events. So moving house, for example, is particularly stressful, and divorce and separation is stressful, but getting divorced or separating can sometimes mean you have to move house, so it can then trigger other stressful events. Which means it's a time where people can really, really struggle with feeling able to breathe or keeping their heads above water. And that in itself means that anything becomes more difficult, whether that's just having a conversation with someone, whether that's keeping a lid on your temper, whether that's being able to just function and think things through in your head in a logical manner. There is a whole cycle of recovering or going through a grief process, and that's defined by many life events. For example, a bereavement will automatically lead to a grief process. But there can be other things like a significant medical diagnosis or facing a really, really difficult challenge like being made redundant. There can be a whole grief attached to that kind of thing. And there is absolutely a grief cycle attached to a separation or a divorce. And it's a complicated grief process, I think, because you haven't necessarily lost someone in the same way you would as a bereavement. And that can make it really confusing for people. But what you do lose as a result of a separation or divorce is the life that you thought you were going to have. You know, it's natural to kind of think forward and think about things you want to be doing in 5 or 10 years and to have an idea of what the rest of your life might look like. And when you separate from a partner, you're significantly changing what you think the rest of your life is going to look like. And sometimes this can be a positive because you weren't in a relationship that made you happy. But people see this positive at very different points. Sometimes you might make the decision to separate because you want to see a more positive life for yourself. And often that person is quite a way ahead in the grieving or recovery cycle because they've been contemplating ending the marriage or the relationship for some time because they haven't been happy. But the other person may be really shocked by the decision to end the marriage or relationship. Even where there have been difficulties, even where people have talked about potentially separating in the past, it doesn't mean that that person has thought, oh yeah, my relationship's going to end. Sometimes they may have thought things were getting better. They may have thought that it was just a bit of a blip because there was a stressful time going on. So you may have one person who is, yeah, come on, I want to work out my new life as a single person. I've got ideas about where I'm going to live. I know all about this. I want to move on and sort this out. And the other person is just in shock because they simply hadn't seen that this was going to happen or that it was going to happen now. And that can make communication really difficult because you're both at different points in that recovery process. And that's something that I talked about in the first blog in this series. The second point and the subject of the second blog that I've written about this is that when you've been in a relationship with someone, you often assume you know what they're thinking or you know how they feel about things. And so often we don't listen properly to people because we know what they're going to say. We're quite sure we understand where they're coming from, and either we think they're wrong or we disagree. And so we don't properly listen to what the other person's saying because we know what they're going to say. We just listen sufficiently to enable ourselves to respond. Listening to really understand what someone is saying is a very, very different skill. Firstly, it means you need to be detached from the outcome. You need to let go of anything that you have as a preconceived idea about what that person is saying. Secondly, it means you need to really focus on what they're saying so that you can understand what it is and feel into their body language or their voice tone to know how they're feeling about that. Is it something they're really passionate about? Is it something they're clearly agitated about? Do they seem stressed or worried or maybe a bit teary? And thirdly, get curious. Sometimes in order to really understand what someone is saying, you need to ask them some questions to flush out exactly how they feel. You may need to clarify certain points, or maybe you could interpret what they've said in two different ways. So you need to understand which way they meant it. So you might need to ask some questions about it. And where you think you know what the other person's talking about, often our response is to explain why the other person is wrong or explain what they've missed out. But if you're listening to clarify and asking questions to clarify things, that's a very different place to come from. And if you really understand what the other person is saying, it doesn't mean you're going to agree with it. You may really appreciate what they're saying and still think they're wrong, and that's okay. But if you really understand what they're thinking in the first place, it then gives you a much better understanding, and it means that you can reflect on what they've said, and that can often take conversations to a very different place. And again, that was the subject of the second blog. So if you're having communication problems or you feel that any conversation with your partner or ex-partner is ending in an argument, have a think about whether you're both at different points in the recovery process, and also have a think about whether you're really listening to each other, whether you're really seeking to understand. And I should say here something that I say a lot, which is that sometimes there can be an immediate thought of, well, why should I listen to understand when my partner never does that for me? I would say try it. Sometimes people can be amazed about the power of what happens when just one person changes the way that they deal with things. The last blog in this series will be published next week, and if I can't do a Facebook Live about that, then I will pick that up again when I'm back from holiday. But the next blog in the series, the third one, was focusing on what further support do you need? If you're finding communication really challenging, then it may be you just need a bit of support to help you with that at this time. So that could include family mediation, because family mediation can be really helpful in helping you to have conversations in a place where your conversations are facilitated. So a mediator can help you to understand exactly what each other is saying. A mediator can also to help keep you on point. Sometimes there can be particular patterns where one person says, oh, well, this happened, and that causes the other person to say, yes, but you've not thought about this. And then they immediately go off in the same place, and they follow patterns to their discussions that can become heated. A mediator can keep you on each point and help you work that out before you move to other places, so that you are starting to find a way forward. A mediator can also help to keep things calm. I think we all know that if you're having a conversation with your partner or ex-partner on your own, it's more likely to get heated than if there is somebody else there, and particularly a professional person. And thirdly, mediators are really experienced in matters relating to divorce and separation. So sometimes you can get stuck because you feel that there's only your way or your ex-partner's way, and you won't do their way and they won't do your way. But mediators often have lots of different ways of working things out. So that could include hybrid options, so that you can blend the two ways forward that you see into a way that you may both feel you can live with or feel comfortable with. Or they may have other ideas for how you could deal with things, so that you can move forward on a particular issue in a way that you hadn't thought of. And that, again, can be really useful. If there are a lot of emotions relating to your separation and you're both finding it hard, or one of you's finding it hard, to keep a lid on your anger or your upset, then it may be helpful to talk to someone about that in a safe place. And friends and family can be great at listening and comforting you, but they can't always help you to find a way forward and unravel your feelings. Sometimes they can sort of resort to tough love, or sometimes it can be an element of them letting you stay where you are rather than focusing on how you can move forward. Somebody like a counsellor or a psychotherapist or even a coach who can support you in this emotional journey and help you to move forward can be really useful in helping you to process that emotion and move through it, so that you can then have strategies for dealing with how you feel and helping to manage those emotions so that you can have a calmer conversation. Sometimes getting other experts in can be really helpful if you're both up in arms about what happens with pensions, because neither of you really understand what the situation is, but you're both very worried about how you might make ends meet in retirement. Get a pensions expert in, because they can talk to you about what's possible and what's not possible. They can look at your situation and say, oh, okay, so this is your situation. Option A is probably not going to work. Option B might be a possibility, but actually option C that you hadn't thought about might be a good way forward. And just having that expert knowledge can help you to feel reassured and to find a way forward that you both feel can work for you. So it can be really important to find that support. And particularly with communication, sometimes it can just be practical strategies that help you to manage the communication that you have. It may be things like, don't have the conversation when you both had a really hard day at work and you are both a bit on edge because your children have been upset. Sometimes it can be tweaking the language that you use with each other so that it doesn't end up causing difficulties. Other times it can be strategies to help you manage a difficult situation so that you can feel that you are communicating more clearly. And again, that's something that family mediators or counsellors will be able to help you with. As I say, I hope that this has been helpful in helping you to understand how you can move forward from a place of not being able to talk to each other or communicate with each other. If you feel that you would really benefit from having some tools and strategies to help you manage your separation, then I have a free mailing list that I send these out to, and you can sign up for that free mailing list by going to bit.ly/LKW Family Med list. And if you're a professional that works with couples who are going through a separation or individuals going through a separation, then I have a separate list for professionals, and that includes all of the resources that I send out on my other mailing list, that you can share with your clients. But it also includes details of training courses and networking events that I'm running. I have a whole range of training courses that I run for any professional working with individuals or couples going through a separation, whether you're a counsellor, a fellow mediator, or a lawyer. And you'll get details of those and how to book. And I'll also share details of the networking events that I run, which are aimed at anybody who works with separating couples or individuals. And they're designed to get us all in a room together so that we can understand more about each other's work and how we might help each other's clients. And it enables us to firstly build a referral network to each other, but it also enables us to understand more about what each other do, because I passionately believe that helping clients to find the right support at the right time can be really game-changing in a separation. And it's also usually the most cost-effective way of managing the issues that crop up. That's all from me today. As I say, don't forget I'm going to be away on holiday from the end of next week. If you feel you need help while I'm away, then have a look at the blog, which the link will be on the live post today, or you can also check out any of the social media channels that LKW Family Mediation has, as there's always help and guidance out on those as well. And if you're signed up to our newsletter, the next newsletter will be out at the start of September. Thanks very much.